It would just be my luck that my microphone is on mute. Let's turn the fan off, or at least turn it down and close this door. Get everything set up. Just had to get the fan off and make sure everything was peachy keen. Good stuff. Okay, so it is now 9 more minutes. Just getting everybody set up, getting everybody ready to go. I'm on here for 2 minutes. Okay. So we have 9 more minutes to go. Get back here and relax and double check all my settings, making sure everything's stable. Doesn't go kaplunk on me. Make sure the cat's not in the room. Oh, that's a good cup of tea. Let's see. Does these actually show up? Let's see. Okay. Okay, so it's a little bit slow. How's that sound? Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. How's that sound? Oh, hi, Joni. I just saw your post coming up, and it is a little bit of a delay, so like maybe 10-second delay from when what is being recorded actually pops onto the video. So I'm hearing myself. I'm back and forth here. I'm listening to myself on my phone just to get an idea what the delay is. All right, and I'm also posting to my, let's see, where should I post this? Oh, hi, Joni. I just saw your post coming up, and it is a little bit of a delay, so like maybe... Yeah, you can just hear me commenting on. I look up and there's suddenly someone posting in the comments. So we've got about 6 more minutes to give people, and then we're going to sit and chat and just get everything, all the sound configured, and give the people a little bit of time to come on. And this is going to be one of the boring bits, but so once we get this started, so let's see, where should I share this? Okay, so I shared that, and it'll be off. So hello, lone person in the chat, Joni. How are you doing, Joni? I know you're quite a ways away from where I am at, though not as far as some people. Just checking in to see how you're doing, and we'll get started with this in about, give people about 5-10 minutes to get on, and then we'll get started with the Mac Criomthann Tales. That's what we're going to be reading this evening, and then if we have time, we will be reading some selections from British Goblins. And great book, great collection of folk tales. Really, really well researched, other than the fact that it's actually full of Welsh folklore and fairy mythology, but it's called British Goblins. Go figure. But yeah, we'll get that started in a bit, and then if there's more people that are hanging out in the chat, part of the reason why I had it up on my screen is so I could get an idea of where the chat is, and get ideas of how many people are actually in here. Then they're not telling me how many people are actually in here, and I was seeing it earlier. Go figure. So, gosh, I was gonna get it started, and then give people a couple more minutes, and I'm kind of just getting bored just sitting here, and I'm sure you're getting bored watching me here, but I brought food up here to keep me occupied, though. My partner downstairs, he's got a game going on, so that's why I'm up here, to get away from the sound so that we can actually talk. But, no, I don't want to start a live video on my phone while I'm doing a live video on my computer. That would just be silly. Basically, I'm going to sit here, relax, maybe have a chat with a couple people that are in the chat before we get started, give people just a chance to come in. And I'm repeating myself because I'm extremely nervous, because this is my first live video that I've ever done. And, yeah. Will it show me how many people are in here? Will it show me? No, it doesn't show me what's on. It also up a lot of the feature. Okay. No idea what. I'm using my camera to do this on my computer, and then I've got my donated blue microphone, so that's why I've got such quality sound that picks up just about everything. So if you're in the chat, let me know that you're in the chat so I can get an idea of who's who, and questions and general conversation. And I brought a drink up, and I forgot to get the bottle opener. That's fun. So I know I've at least got one person in here. Let's see. Pull this up a bit. No, that's not what I wanted you to do. Stop it. All right. Okay, that's that. We've been on here for about 10 minutes, and it is 7:59, so we're about to get started. All the people actually show up, otherwise it's just going to be me talking. And I don't know about you, but I can talk to myself all day long. Really. And by the way, right below the video, I think on my phone, at least that's where it's at, there's a donate button. And this isn't terribly important. This is not exactly what this is all about, but there's a place you can donate to the Mental Health Foundation. And they're a great foundation. They have lots of resources, and check out their website, check out what they're all about. They're awesome. I'm not going to be a advertisement for them, but they're a great foundation. and several of my friends donate to them. I won't name names because I'm not going to name any names without their permission. But mental health is a big thing and a very important thing, and a lot of people right now are in a very low place right now, and any community or foundation or group that promotes or helps mitigate times like these and when people are really, really low is definitely good in my books. So there's a place for you to donate for them. It's not necessary to watch the stream. It's just Facebook gave me the option, and I was like, well, okay, I'll donate there. So if you want to donate, there's a button down there if you want to donate. If you feel like you're being productive and actually going for the cause and all that kind of stuff while you're at home, not able to go to work, and feeling a little, So 8:01. So I'm gonna just give us like maybe a couple more minutes to see if anybody pops up. And if you do pop up, give me a comment, and then we'll get started with the reading, because that's kind of what you're here for, right? All right. So just minutes, like maybe 5 more minutes. I've been on here for a good 12 minutes now. It just blinked at me. Why did it blink? No, don't leave me. Okay. Lots of technical disturbances. Not really, but you know what I mean. But yeah. So I'll just nibble on my toast and blow my fan to keep cool, because it is very warm up here. I'm actually in the top of the house, on top of the apartment. I think it's really, really warm up here. I had the fan going earlier, had to turn it off because it is very loud. But yeah, keep myself cool and keep my throat lubricated with lots of tea and brought cider, I'm going to use this time to actually go down and get the bottle opener so that I can actually have my cider later on. So if you have comments in the comments, I'll be right back with the bottle opener and we can get this party started. All right. Cat, what are you doing? We have a visitor. You can't see him. He's a bit of a scary cat. Get this opened up. Side over here. Spill it. Which would just be me. Alright, so when did I say that? Okay, when did I comment on that? When did I comment on that? Like 15 minutes ago. So this is 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So we've given you 5 minutes. So So, get your favorite beverage. Okay, so we've got someone commenting in on saying, "Hey, what's the format of stop it. Let's get out of there." Commenting on what the format of this particular thing is going to be. So I'm interested, but I need a little more info. So what is the format like? Do you just read like an hour's worth of the book and then direct people where they can get it to finish? Or do you spend the several hour sessions to read the entire novel? That's really up to you guys. Right now where we've got this one particular book, which is a fairly short piece. And I've got some pieces that I can read here. So it's really up to you what you want me to do. But tonight, in particular, let's see if I can get this to record. So tonight's is going to be me reading from one particular book. It's a fairly short book, so I should finish within maybe half an hour. And then the rest of it is actually I'm going to be reading folk tales and other pieces from the book British Goblins by W Sikes. Period. So I could pick up a book later on and do an hour's worth of reading for each book. That's kind of what I was expecting to do, but generally speaking, I would like to read a little bit shorter pieces just to get myself in the flow. Okay, so let's get that answer. Is wondering about that particular question. Trying to talk and chat at the same time is just it may change, but that is tonight. That is tonight. That's what I want to do. Okay, all right. Answering that question. So, pinned comment. Should I unpin this? Probably. Oh, what am I doing? Stay in this page. I don't want to stop it. Okay. Delete. Talk in the chat. Since I've only got like maybe one person at this point, as far as I'm aware. So if you're in the chat now, let me know. Andrew Robinson. Okay, so I've got some people that are fairly interested. So I can't see who is in the chat unless you make a comment in the chat. So let's get this show on the road. So it's now 8:10, right when I said I was going to get started. Close this door so no. Yes, I'm trapping you in here. Yes, I'm talking to the cat. He's over here off camera. He might show up, he might not, but generally I think he won't because he's not. I won't say he's unfriendly. It's just he's very skittish. And we're right next to the freeway, so there's going to be a lot of road noise. Okay, so the first reading for tonight is from Mac Criomthann Tales. And this is by G.R. Grove. And I can put a link to her or their stuff. They're available on lulu.com. And they've also come up with a 4th book in their Storyteller series recently. And these are bits and pieces and stories from that same universe, featuring, I believe it is one of the characters in that series. They've just come up with the 4th one. It's available on Lulu. And I believe they're like $8 for the digital version, but they're like $18 for the actual physical books, like the ones I've got here. I bought this one for like $5-10. Hi, Joni. Hi, Joni. I think we've got only you today, unless somebody else pops in on the chat. But just getting started. We're going to be reading the Mac Criomthann Tales by G.R. Grove. And I've already explained where these stories come from, and I will be leaving a link to her website where you can get a copy of your own from online. Okay, so let's take a drink of tea before I get started so that I actually have a voice. Alright, let's get started. Alright. Many are the tales which were once told of the druid called Mac Criomthann, and the adventures which befell him in the years he wandered Ireland. For it was not a man of Erin that he was, but a Briton. And how he came by his name and his nature in that great island, I have told you elsewhere. Most of his stories are lost now, or attributed to other heroes and magicians. But these few I have salvaged. I learned them once from an ancient storyteller long ago in a distant land. Now I share them with you here. Mac Criomthann and the Language of the Birds. Long ago, in Ireland, the druid called Mac Criomthann was walking one evening through the oak woods, which clothe the lower slopes of Mulligamesha. He was neither young nor old in those days. His beard was still black. His gray eyes saw things clearly. In the Irish tongue, his name means son of the fox. In a little while, you will see why he was so called. As he walked, Mac Criomthann listened to the singing of the birds, for he understood their language, and he knew that their silence can be as important as their speech. And so, when he noticed a patch of that silence in the forest around him, he became thoughtful. Not far ahead, his path crossed a deep river by means of a rough wooden bridge, which leapt from one high bank to the other. And in the center of that bridge, he saw someone who looked like a little old woman, muffled in gray-brown shawls. But the silence of the birds and his own magic told Mac Criomthann that she was not what she seemed, and he stopped before he set foot upon the bridge. "Good evening to you, old mother," he said. The little old woman peered up at him through her tangled gray hair. "It is no mother of yours I am," she said in a creaky voice. "And where would you be going this fine evening?" "Far enough, and yet not that far," said Mac Criomthann. "Where do you bide, grandmother?" "Near enough, and not very far." "Near enough, and not very near," said the old woman. "Would you be crossing over?" "I would," said Mac Criomthann, but he did not move. "Read me this riddle aright," said the old woman, "and I will let you pass. And if I fail, you will pay the price," said the old woman, and smiled a toothless smile. Mac Criomthann stood and thought. It was far and far to any other bridge over this river, and there would be little moonlight that night. If he did not cross now, he might not reach his goal before morning, and he had need to. "What," he asked, "is the riddle, grandmother?" "Tell me who I am, and the price if I fail." "The rod you carry beneath your belt." Now, there are two meanings to that answer, and neither pleased Mac Criomthann. For the one thing was his druid's wand, and the other a part of himself. So he stood and thought. And the evening deepened toward dusk, and the small birds of the woodland were silent still. And far off he heard the voices of the crows returning to roost. The old woman heard them too. She cocked her head to listen, and then seemed to hunch her shoulders, settling deeper into her brown shawls and her cloud of gray hair, her eyes glowing faintly red in the gloom. "Well," she said in a grating voice. The voices of the crows were coming closer. "I think," said Mac Criomthann slowly, "that I will let someone else answer your question." And on the words, he pursed his lips and let out a loud, echoing, "Who? Who? Who?" Through the trees came the crows, diving, cawing loudly as they came, for there is nothing they hate more than an owl. The owled woman on the bridge, shot up, opening her great wings, and fled away before them into the dark. And when peace had settled once more over the oak woods, Mac Criomthann crossed the bridge and went on his way, smiling at the sleepy twittering of the birds. For he knew well, as I tell you now, that the easiest way to get out of a trap is not to go in. Isn't she? All right, that's the first tale. How am I doing so far? Everybody hearing me okay? Or is everything good? Do you want me to continue? Because I've got several more tales from this book. This is only the first one of at least 5 or 6 of them. So let's see. 3 comments. So let's look at that. Oh, Joan and Taffy are in here, so hello. Nice to see everybody. And apparently a couple people showed up. Okay. All right, just great. Go on, please. It's Joni. So I'll keep going. Let me get a cup of tea first. So I want to make sure that I don't lose my voice right in the middle here. But if you've ever listened to G.R. Grove live, she's an awesome storyteller. And I especially love her story of the bees. So if you ever find her or talk with her, ask her for the story of the bees, because I love that story, and I definitely won't be doing it any justice the way she tells it. But I believe I actually have a recording of her actually doing that story, so it might be coming onto the podcast at a later date, maybe soon. So keep an eye out for that. But I would definitely I guarantee you would love all her books. They are lovely. Okay, so moving on. The second tale in our book is Mac Criomthann and the Bardic Arts. Many years ago, when the druid called Mac Criomthann was first on his wanderings throughout Ireland, he came one evening at sunset to a king's rath, built on a promontory overlooking the western sea. Now, Mac Criomthann was still a young man in those days, and there was little that he feared in this world or the others. But he had learned in a hard school to think before acting, if he had time. And it struck him that something about this place was strange. So he paused at the edge of the croplands to consider what he saw. Within the low turf wall, which half encircled the place, were a cluster of thatched buildings, with the blue smoke of the cooking fires rising from their roofs and catching the last light of the setting sun. The wall cut off his view of the comings and goings he would expect, but he could hear the lowing of the cattle in their nighttime enclosure and the distant crying of the gulls over the sea. Otherwise, things were quiet. So quiet that the hushing of the waves on the shingle at the foot of the cliff seemed loud. But nowhere was there the sound of a human voice, and this was not a good thing. Mac Criomthann might have turned away, but found another lodging for the night. But curiosity had always been strong in him, and so he went towards the rath. As he came closer, he saw in the gateway a young warrior with a spear in his hands, standing as one who keeps watch. "A greeting to you, man," Mac Criomthann called out to him. "Is there room in the hall for a stranger?" "There is," said the young warrior, "but by all the gods I swear by, you were better elsewhere tonight, for there is a grief on the house that no man can remove." "What grief is this?" asked Mac Criomthann. "A man who is not a man will come out of the sea tonight," said the young warrior. and he will take away our king's daughter with him, unless one can prevent him. And only a bard could do so, for he first challenges all to best him in the bardic arts. I am not a bard, but I have some skill in those arts, said Macron. Let me go in and see what I can do. On your own head be it, said the young warrior. For the last 3 men who tried are dead. But 1,000 blessings on you if you succeed. And he stood aside, and Macron passed through and went into the king's hall. Now, of all the halls he had ever entered, Macron thought that he had never seen one so gloomy. Although the fires burned brightly on the long hearth, and the good smell of boiled meat came from the cauldron above it, although the benches along the walls were crowded with young warriors, and women went back and forth with full pitchers of foaming ale, although the trestled tables groaned with platters of meat and bread, and no knife in the hall was greaseless. Still, the talk and laughter and song, which should have filled the high-ceilinged room, were missing. And in their place was a heavy, expectant silence. Even the huge grey hounds in the rushes seemed to gnaw quietly on their bones. The entrance of a stranger, however, drew all eyes. The sad-faced king, at the far side of the hall, looked up from his silver cup of mead. "Greetings, O stranger," he said. "Come and join us, and be welcome. Poor is the cheer we have tonight, but food and drink, at least, we can give you. Tell me first, O king," said Macron, "of the trouble that lies on you and your people. For your man at the gate said it was heavy indeed." "Indeed, and it is," said the king, sighing. "Every month at the full of the moon, a man who is not a man comes to us out of the sea and takes away with him the one in my hall whom I love best. No weapons will bite on him, but only words. For when he comes, he challenges any within to a battle of the poet's craft. 3 men of art he has bested and slain in my hall, and none now will come near us. How can a king survive who has no bard?" "He cannot," said Macron. "Does this enemy say why he comes?" "He does not," said the king. "Then when he comes I shall ask," said Macron, "for without knowledge no wise action is possible." "Wait then," said the king, "and ask." Macron sat himself down on a bench near the king's chair and waited. And he thought about the contest which was to come. He was, as he had said, no bard, but in his youth he had travelled with those who were, and learned much of the bardic arts from them. So he approached this challenge with caution, but also with hope, and neither his caution nor his hope was misplaced. The hour was late, and the full moon riding high in the pale summer sky, before the howling of the dogs outside the hall gave him warning. Then a massive darkness loomed in the doorway, and the man from the sea came in. He came with a gust of salt air and the stench of rotted weed. And at his coming the fires flared up smoky red, and the shadows leapt wildly. Man-shaped indeed he was, and yet not a man. For he was of one of the old races who had held Ireland in the distant past, before the comings of the son of Mills. His skin was a pale green of shallow water, and his long hair and beard the color of the rockweed, which the women gather at low tide. And his eyes held the darkness of storm clouds over the deep sea. Naked he stood, and unarmed. Yet Mac Criomthann knew that he was not defenseless. He spoke in a grating roar, like the storm surge, saying, "I come, O king, for your tribute. Is your daughter ready?" Before the king could answer, Mac Criomthann stood up. "She is not, and never will be," he said. "Who are you to deny me?" asked the giant. "One who has walked the path," said Mac Criomthann. "Who are you to make demands in a king's hall?" "One who washes that path away," said the giant, and laughed a great laugh. "Bring out the girl." "First," said Mac Criomthann, "tell me why you come, and where you are from, and what you do here." Again the giant laughed. "If you would have answers," he said, "let you win them." "What game shall we play, and for what stakes?" said Mac Criomthann. "A game of words," said the giant, "and if you win, I will answer one question. And if I lose, I will take your head." "I do not like these terms," said Mac Criomthann, smiling. "Let us set some others. If I win, you will answer a question, and if you win, I will make my magic. I will make by magic a thing which you desire, and the game shall be the game of rhymes. Is it not good?" "It is good," said the giant, "and I will begin." "Do so," said Mac Criomthann, "but after this, the winner shall begin." "Agreed," said the giant. And he spoke a stave of verse, thus: "In summer skies are hot and sun is high." And Mac Criomthann responded, "The crops grow tall, the harvest now is nigh, yet winter cold and grey will come ere long." And so they continued, until one or the other could not complete the rhyme within the time it takes a man to cough thrice. The giant failed first, and Mac Criomthann said, "Answer me this, from where do you come?" "Not hard," said the giant. "I come from Manannan's pastures. Shall we play again?" "We shall," said Mac Criomthann. And they played again, and again Macrom won. Answer me this, he said. What do you do in Mananan's pastures? Not hard, said the giant. I tend his swine. Shall we play again? We shall, said Macrom. And they played again, and again Macrom won. Answer me this. What do you do in Mananan's pastures? Oh wait, do it again. Okay. Tend his swine. Shall we play again? We shall, said Macrom. And they played again, and this time Macrom lost. Well then, he said, what shall I make? The deadliest weapon in the world, said the giant. Not hard, said Macrom, and it requires no magic, for everyone in this hall has one already. The deadliest weapon in the world is the tongue, for with it one may destroy all a man's happiness and prosperity, and also take away his good name, which is worth much more. Shall we play again? We shall, said the giant, and they played again. And this time Macrom won. Answer me this. Why do you come to this hall to take away all those the king loves best? Not hard, said the giant. The king's men took away the thing I love best in the world, and I come to even the balance. Shall we play again? We shall, said Macrom. And they played again, and again Macrom won. Answer me this, he said. What thing did the king's men take away? Not hard. The king's men took away my wife. She was in the form of a seal, and they caught her and killed her. Shall we play again? We shall, said Macrom. And they played again. And this time Macrom lost. Well then, what shall I make? The sweetest thing in the world, said the giant. Not hard, said Macrom. And to one of the king's men he said, Bring me a harp. And when it was brought to him, he looked to the tuning and made ready to play. The sweetest thing in the world, he said then, is music, for it can bring laughter and tears and sleep, and all of these heal the heart. And he began to play the 3 kinds of music. And first, he had everyone in the hall laughing until they fell down from their benches. And next, he had them in tears. And at last, all but he fell asleep, even the giant. Then Macrom laid down the harp, and he went to the doorway and gazed into the night. And he saw that the moon was hanging low in the western sky, and that dawn was approaching. And then he turned back to the hall. He saw the giant was waking. That was a good magic you made, old man, said the giant. And for that I will give you another answer. Ask what you will. What payment, asked Macrom, would you take to settle the blood debt owed to you by the king and his people? Bearing in mind that those who killed your wife did not know her nature, and that you have already several times her honor price in lives. The giant stood silent for a while, and sadness was on his face. Nah, he said at last, perhaps you are right. There is no payment in the world which will bring my wife back. Yet I would take one more thing from the king's hall before I go. Tell me, O wise man, what is the most valuable thing here? Not hard, said Macram, and he smiled. The most valuable thing here is wisdom, and that you have already. The giant thought for a moment, and then nodded. You are right. The sun on your path, oh man. He walked out of the hall and out of the wraith, and straight away vanished like the mist. And he never came back to the king's hall again. But Macram followed him out into the sweet-smelling dawn, and when the sunrise came, he found a dry spot under the thorn tree, and ate a little journey bread from his bag, and lay down smiling to make up for his lost sleep. For he knew that peace of mind is valuable, and he felt that he had earned his fill. All right. Are you guys enjoying this? There's someone commenting on something. I don't hear a lot of chatter in the chat room, or don't see any too many chatter in the chat room. And I've actually been jibber-jabbering since 8:10, so about 30 minutes. This is a little bit longer than I expected. But I've still got quite a bit of a ways to go in this, so you want me to continue. First, I'm going to double check. There's a comment. Someone who wanted to join. He wasn't able to. He's an author friend of mine. He might have something that I can actually use for maybe next time. But if you would like me to continue with the tales of Macram and his adventures, let me know in the chat. I know that there's at least 2 of you that are in there. I think, maybe. That's fine. Maybe not Taffy, but I think Joni is still there. So at least I'm reading to somebody. Let's see. I can't do that. My elbow short. No. And I might have another story for you guys that is not from Macram, but I'd have to read that for sure. Live, so that sort of thing. Okay, thank you very much, Joni. I'm actually doing this for another 30 minutes. 30 minutes because this is 8:44. I started about 8:10, so about 35 minutes I've been doing this. So about maybe 25 more minutes, perhaps. So I've got 2 more tales of Crumb. If you would like me to continue. I'm just going to take a cup of tea, and I've also got my cider. Make sure my throat is well lubricated to speak these, because I wouldn't want to start losing my voice in the middle of all this. But yeah, these are lovely, lovely tales, and actually, what I'm going to be, I can just finish this off tonight, and then we'll maybe maybe hit some of these next time, and maybe. All right, so I've got some drink in me now. But so that was Macron and the Bardic Arts, and thank you guys for your in the chat. It's much appreciated. Though there is a little bit of a delay, so why is this blinking at me? I have no idea. Okay, and there's a little bit of a delay. So, anyways, and welcome to the person who joined in just now. I saw you pop up on the feed. Let me know who you are and everything in the chat. And so this next tale is another tale of Macron, and it is a tale of Macron and the herd of white cattle. All right. Long ago in Ireland, when the druid called Macron was first on his wanderings, he came one day to the fort of the King of Ulster. And as he came, he saw, just want to put a side note in here, I'm trying to pronounce the Irish correctly, but bear with me. And as he came, he saw the Eochaid, the king, leaning on the gate of a field with some of his warriors beside him, and looking into the field. And in the field, Macron saw a herd of beautiful white cows, each with her calf beside her. And the bodies of the cows were all of clear, shining white, and their ears a clear, shining red, and their calves the same. Greetings, O King of Ulster, said Macron. That is a lovely herd of white cattle you have in your field. Greetings to you, Macron, the druid, said the king, and sighed. Yes, they are lovely indeed, but the price I paid for them was too dear. Why? How is that? Asked Macron. The king sighed again. Come to my hall with me, he said, and I will tell you the tale. It will go better over a drink. Once they were seated in the king's hall, with each of them a cup of ale in his hand, the king was for some time silent. At last, Macron spoke and said, What was the price that you paid for your white cattle, O king? For I think it is a heavy sorrow that is on you. Indeed, and it is. The price I paid for was, Athene, my wife, and I find... Hello. Now you're making me nervous because the actual author's in the room. Okay, where was I? Let's see. I lost my place. Indeed, and it is, said the king. The price I paid for them was Ethne, my wife. And I find that I cannot live without her. So you pronounce the Then? Because I was looking it up and I heard it was Macron. Okay. Mac Criomthann. Okay, I'll pronounce it correctly from now on. Alright. Alright. Sorry. Indeed it is. The price for them was my... When I find I cannot live without her. That is ill hearing, said Mac Criomthann. How did it come about? It happened thus, said the king. I had been visiting the king of Leinster at Knock-Almain, and we had made merry all one night. And on the next morning, as we walked out to take the air, I saw a herd of white cattle grazing in a green field, and I desired them. And the king of Leinster saw my desire and gave them to me. On the condition that when we next visited Ulster, I should give him the first thing that he desired. Said Mac Criomthann, frowning. And when he came, he desired your wife? He did, said the king. And again he sighed. And how to get her back without damage to my name and to my honor, I cannot see. You are known both for your wisdom and for your cleverness, Mac Criomthann. Can you help me? Said Mac Criomthann again. Perhaps. Let me think on this for a while. And in the chat, just letting you know, this book is on Amazon for $8.99. The king waited, hopefully, for some time. At last, Mac Criomthann said, These cows, O king, do you know where the king of Leinster came by them? For I think they are not as other cattle. The mark of the other world is on them. I do not know, said the king, frowning in his turn. Let us go and look at them again, said Mac Criomthann. Hello, Vernon. For that, I think I must go. The king would have given Mac Criomthann a chariot and horses to spear me, but the druid declined, saying that he preferred to go on foot, as it gave him more time to think. He did not go directly to Leinster, but went first to his home near Macha, and spent some time there with his friend, the Bon Drui Ruad Ingen Domino. And once again, I do apologize for the mispronunciation. I'm trying my best here, but it is what it is. And on the next morning, the two of them harnessed their horses to their chariot and set out for Dun Almain. Their journey went slowly, And in 3 days' time, they arrived at the King of Leinster's and were made welcome there. And that night they had much speech at the feast hall with King of Leinster's druids, and spoke, as such folk will, of the magical things they had travels. I have seen two monstrous cats, said one, come out of a cave near Rathcrucan in Connacht, and lay waste all the land about. And it was only by the strength of my magic that I was able to escape from them unharmed. That is nothing, said another. I have seen the Morgana herself, soaring on the storm winds over an army, and marking those who were to die. But when she came for me, and the strength of my magic turned her aside, and she left me unharmed. I, said Rua. Did I pronounce that? Rua? Okay. Have seen in my youth a foreign army broken on a magical fence, and thrown back into the sea from whence they came, and I myself help set that magic. And she smiled at Mac Criomthann. I, said Mac Criomthann, sadly to the other two, although his eyes were smiling back at her, have seen many wonders and dangers myself on my travels, although none to compare with those. And I came here today, hoping to see another. But it seems that I must be disappointed. Why? What wonder or danger was that? Said the first druid. I had heard a tale, said Mac Criomthann, that your king possessed a herd of wondrous cattle, their bodies all of clear shining white, and their ears a clear shining red, and the mark of the other world on them. But I saw no such cows in the pastures here as we came in. Was I misled? Nah, you were not, said the first druid. Our king did indeed own such cows at one time, but he gave them away to the King of Ulster 3 moons ago. I wonder that you should not have heard the story there. No news of it reached Amenmacha, said Rua. But to see such a herd of cattle would indeed be a wonder. Was it truly from the other world that they came? It was, said the second druid. And this was the way of it. Last year at Samhain, a strange man entered our hall, and the glamour of magic all around him, and greeted and spoke with our king. What words they exchanged, I will not bide to hear, but the next morning we found in our pastures the herd of white cattle of which you spoke. And at Imbolc they all bore white calves. Then your king came and desired them, and our king gave them to him in exchange for his wife. And at the feast of Samhain, he and she will be wed. That is a strange tale indeed, said Rua. But as a woman, I wonder that she consent to it. Indeed, not the first are you to wonder, said the first Druid, smiling. But ask her yourself tomorrow, and see what she says. I shall do that, said Rua. And that the talk ran on other matters, until it was time for sleep. In the morning, Mac Criomthann and Rua set themselves each to a different task. And in the late afternoon, they met again on the wall of the dun from which the King of Ulster had first seen his herd of white cattle. Is that the wrong one? Yeah. The cows in the field on that day were red and black, with no spot of white on them. Tell me then, said Mac Criomthann, what you have learned. Little that we did not know already. She came with Aeth rather than dishonor her husband, and for the same reason she will wed him. But I think that she would be glad to return to Ulster, fool though he be, if an honorable way opened before her. Said Mac Criomthann thoughtfully. That is what we must find. And what did you learn? Asked Rua. Mac Criomthann smiled. Little that we did not already suspect. I have not yet had speech with Aeth, but one who sat near him that evening more a stranger, a tall man, flaxen-haired, of unearthly beauty, and clothing on him which gleamed and glittered like beetles' wings in the light. 3 games of fidgeshell they played, and the stranger always losing, though he did not mind. He vanished then, as quickly as he came, thus giving the white cow, asked Rua. The same. Absently, Mac Criomthann rubbed his scarred left palm with his right thumb, as he often did while thinking. Bait for a trap, perhaps. I'm thinking he will be back, and that at Samhain, to see what his trap has caught. Then we shall have time to prepare. We shall indeed, said Mac Criomthann, and smiled. Sorry. It's just bothering me I'm not pronouncing this correctly, so I'm looking up how to pronounce that one name. There it is. I've got a website. Well, that's funny. Alright, so I'll just have to go as I am. Alright. If Ea was surprised when Aisha, king of Ulster, arrived at his dun 3 days before the Samhain feast, with only the small escort which befitted his rank. He did not show it, but made his unexpected guest welcome with all courtesy. He was more surprised the following day, when the herd of white cattle appeared, driven by some of Ushay's cowmen. The arrival of Mac Criomthann and Rua passed without notice, for they came separately, and later in their own chariot. They were, however, in good time to observe the scene in the feast hall that evening, when Eoshe formally presented his beloved cows to his erstwhile wife, Ethne, saying that as he could not have the one, he would not keep the other to remind him of his loss. It is, O King of Ulster, said Eoth, that you should double your gift to me to but as she comes to me, the cows come with her. That, said Aoshi quietly, is yet to be seen. And as he sat down, he left Aoth with a frown in puzzlement, and Ethna smiling faintly. I told her, said Rua to Mac Criomthann softly, what was planned when I saw her this afternoon. She is ready to play hurt. He nodded. That, I think, will come tomorrow night, but it is as well that you be prepared. The night passed, and the morning, and the dun was kept busy with preparations for the wedding feast of the king. Visitors came in from far and near. The guest houses were overflowing, and the tents were set up outside the walls for the retinues of the king's clients. Cattle and swine were driven in and slaughtered, and the cauldrons in the feast hall bubbled merrily all day, while the scents of spit-roasted oxen filtered in from the fires outside. Drink there was aplenty, good ale and mead alike, and strolling musicians and storytellers entertained the crowds. Evening had fallen, and Aoth sat at his high table with Ethna beside him, when the thing for which Mac Criomthann and Rua had been waiting occurred. How he no one saw, but between one heartbeat and the next a stranger appeared before the king. A tall man he was, dressed in clothes whose flickering colors changed while one watched. He carried in his hands a harp like the four-cornered music of Ondag, and his face was fair and proud. A slow pool of silence spread out around him until all the hall was silent, and in that stillness his voice rang clear. A greeting to you, O Eoth, King of Leinster, on this Samhain night. I come to reclaim my stake, which I left with you for a year and a day. A greeting to you, O Lord of the Hollow Hills, said Eoth. What stake is that? For I thought that I won our games outright. Thinking is easy, but knowing is hard, said the stranger, smiling. You have had a year's use of my white cattle, O king. Now I come to reclaim what is mine. A sorrow it is upon me, O Lord, said Eoth, but I no longer have them, though they graze in my pastures. I gave them away to my friend, the King of Ulster. And he gestured at Eochaid, who sat at the table on Ethna's other side. Why, how is that? Said the stranger. Did you get nothing in return for such a gift? Indeed, and I did, said Eoth. He gave me his wife, Ethna, and I will be sleeping with her tonight. Ah, said the stranger, but if you have not my white cattle, the thing you got in their place must be mine. And turning to Eth, he held out his hand. Let you come with me to my hill tonight, lady, and be my wife. Nah, lord, said Ethna, I would rather pay you my ransom, for the herd of white cattle you left with the King of Leinster are now mine. Why, how is this? Asked the stranger. I thought that the King of Ulster had them. He did, said Ethna, but yester evening he gave them to me, saying that, as he could not keep me, neither would he keep the cows which had cost him my loss. And now I give them back to you, O Lord, to clear the King of Leinster's debt. The stranger frowned for a moment. His right hand strayed to his harp and plucked a few notes which rang like crystal in the smoky air. Then he laughed. I could compel you, fair lady, he said, but I will not. This game was well played, and I think not only by your hand. And he turned, and for a moment his eyes met Mac Criomthann's. And then, between one heartbeat and the next, he was gone again. He was going, the hall breathed again. And, well now, said Eoth, after a moment, let us go on with the feast, for it is anxious for my wedding and bedding tonight. But Ethna shook her head. Bed you may have tonight, O king, but not with me, for as it seems that the herd of cattle which you gave to my husband, Eochaid, was not yours to give, neither has his gift of me to you in return any force. I have paid your wager for you, and am my own woman again, to bestow myself where I will. and she turned to Aoshe, holding out her hand. Let's go home together, husband, if it please you, and start our lives afresh. They, said Aoshe, smiling and taking it. It pleases me full well. And on their bench in the hall, Mac Criomthann and Rua also smiled. Sinche. Okay, that is the second to last tale in that group of tales. Give my voice rest a bit here, because near the end there I was kind of struggling. But I hope you guys are all enjoying this, and thank you, Vernon and Elise, for showing up today. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name you are on Facebook, so sorry. But thank you for popping in, and thank you, GR Grove, for popping in. He made me a little nervous having the author of the book you're reading actually pop in the middle there, but I think I did fairly well there. But as they did mention, it's on Amazon for $8.99, and I will be leaving the link in what we call the show notes, I think, in podcast land. But I'll leave it somewhere in the description for the live show, so you guys can pick up a copy and see everything else they've written, because there's a lot there. Thank you so much for showing up. I do appreciate it. Yeah, GR. I'm not what you call a very dramatic reader, but I thought this was a good thing to do, especially when we're all stuck at home, isolated from everybody, and, you know. My tea's cold. Cold tea with okay, but yeah. Cold cider better. Just so. Alright, so we started at clock 10. So it's now been exactly an hour. So my voice is doing all right. I could probably finish off these pieces of tales. If you'd like me just to finish this off, or we can end this here and we can start from the last tale in the book tomorrow at 8 o'clock. How's this? You guys got an opinion? Because I can go for either one. So you can do polls on the thing, I think. And there's a little bit of a delay on this, so I'll just give you a second. So, polls. And there's actually a link in the chat if you guys want to pop over and check out the rest of the books. I think that she's actually just finished or is in editing or has put up. I believe you put up the last book in the series, or the latest book in the series. Sorry, not the last one. The latest book in the series, which is the fourth one. Okay, so Joni has kind of made the decision for me, since there's 1, 2, 3, like maybe 4 people in here. And I love you all, and I would love to stay with you all night, but I want to save my voice a bit. So we'll finish off the book tomorrow night with the last tale, Mac Criomthann, and thank you for the pronunciation once again, GR Grove. And we'll start out tomorrow night with Mac Criomthann and the Cave of the Cats. So that's what we're going to start off tomorrow night. Same bat time, same so you guys can take a look at it if you didn't have a chance to. Okay, so it'll reach by the end of the month, the 4th book. Okay, I'll have to keep an eye out for that, because I really do want to kind of read what you write, because I've seen samples of it and they all look awesome. But this is where we're going to end it tonight. Thank you guys for popping in and watching me read it. Ooh, has more Mac Criomthann Tales. Ooh, I've got one of those up when I actually have money. But thank you guys for popping in. See you guys tomorrow evening. Hope you guys well, and may you always be well, and may you always pray with a good fire. Talk to you later.